On today's episode of the franchise, Monday, April 3rd, this is the first episode in the month of April. And today we got a pretty jam-packed episode. It was the opening weekend in Major League Baseball, so we're going to recap the series that these teams just played, some of the games, some of the top performers. Going to do a top 10 power rankings after about 3 or 4 games. So these first power rankings, they don't really mean a whole lot. I mean, we've only seen teams play like 3 or 4 games. So when I do these power rankings later on in the episode, don't take it too seriously. It's only after 3 or 4 games of baseball. So these ones won't mean as much, obviously, as we get later on through the season. We got NFL draft rumors. There's been a lot of rumors circulating. We're only 24 days away from the NFL draft. So a lot of rumors. I'm going to do my NFL mock draft number 4. Every previous mock draft, we have done top 10 picks. This one, I have all 31. There's not 32 picks in this year's first round. All 31 picks. And then we have some updates on the NBA postseason race, especially in the Western Conference. We're only in the last week of the NBA regular season before we get to the NBA playoffs. Also tonight, on Monday, is the NCAA College Basketball National Championship. San Diego State against UConn. UConn's the favorite. San Diego State 7-point underdog. Give me San Diego State in this game. I think SDSU's been playing great, and they're pretty close to me. So before we get into today's episode, as always, franchise is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music. You can find the TikTok, the Instagram, and the Twitter in the description of every single episode. All right, let's start with the NFL draft rumors and then get into the mock draft. So over the weekend, there was a good amount of rumors, and even on this Monday, there's been a good amount of talk. First, I want to bring up this Titans rumor. Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network said that you should keep an eye on the Raiders, who have the 7th overall pick, and the Tennessee Titans, who are picking at number 11 to trade up with the Arizona Cardinals for the number 3 overall pick. And the that 3 overall pick that Arizona has become one of the most valuable picks in the draft right now. Obviously, number 1, when Chicago had that pick, was obviously the most valuable. No one expected that Chicago would stay there in a quarterback-driven draft class. So with Carolina trading up and the Houston Texans having number 2 seemingly locked up, the number 3 overall pick with Arizona Cardinals has been a hot topic of conversation because they have a quarterback on their roster in Kyler Murray. They already paid him a big, massive contract extension, so he's kind of their franchise guy, so you don't expect them to draft a quarterback at 3. And with teams like the Raiders, teams below them, the Commanders, potentially the Atlanta Falcons, the Seahawks, even the Tennessee Titans, all potentially being a team that could jump up, it makes sense for Arizona to definitely look to move out of that pick. And he specifically mentions the Titans in this report. Obviously, he mentions the Raiders, which is a team that I think could potentially move up, but the Titans is an interesting one. Ryan Tannehill is on the last year of his deal. He'll be a free agent after this season, and you're expecting them to move on from him. Obviously, his first few years in Tennessee were great. He had good seasons, but his past few, especially last season, were definitely down years. They drafted Malik Willis in the 3rd round last year's draft, but he had a horrible rookie season. I think you can kind of project long-term that he won't be the best NFL starter. So if you're the Titans, this is a draft class that has potentially 5 first-round quarterbacks in it. And if you like one of these guys, whether it's a Levis, a Stroud, a Richardson, a Bryce Young, and you want to assure that you get one of those guys, I think number 3 is a great place to trade up to. Arizona falls down to 11, which is a nice spot to be in this kind of draft class with a lot of talent in it. And obviously Tennessee could wait till next year in a draft class with Caleb Williams, Drake May, Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. There's going to be a lot of quarterbacks in next year's draft as well. So Tennessee is a team to keep an eye on that could potentially move up to the number 3 overall pick. Also, Peter King from NBC says, several influential voices in the Panthers organization think Bryce Young is a better prospect than CJ Stroud. Since the Panthers have traded up to the number 1 overall pick, I think it's kind of been the assumption, at least in my opinion, and from a good majority of people out there in the NFL world, that CJ Stroud will be the number 1 overall pick. There's still a good amount of people out there that think Bryce Young could be the number 1 overall pick. And I made a video, I made a TikTok, Instagram reel with my NFL mock draft. You know, there was some comments on there. I said I think Stroud's the best quarterback in the draft. I really do think that. I think he is. I think he had, obviously Bryce Young won the Heisman Trophy at his time in Alabama, but in terms of completion percentage, I mean, I have the stats right here. Over Bryce Young, or over CJ Stroud's 2 seasons at Ohio State, 8,123 yards, 85 touchdowns, 69 completion percentage to 12 interceptions, compared to Bryce Young's 8,200 yards, 79 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 65 completion percentage. So in terms of just the raw statistics, they're basically the same quarterback. Now, obviously, you know, Stroud has more touchdowns and a higher completion percentage, but in less yards compared to Bryce Young having more yards, less touchdowns, less completion percentage. I still think they're both great players. Bryce Young, depending on what team, you could take him number 1. Stroud, depending on what team, you take him number 1. I think if the Texans have the number 1 overall pick, they take Bryce Young. And I think if the Panthers have the number 1 overall pick, which they do, they take CJ Stroud. It's just based off of fit with the organization and the coaching staff and the roster around them. I think Stroud fits Carolina better than Bryce Young would. And I still think Bryce Young is a great player. He's more mobile than CJ Stroud, but Stroud, I think, has a better arm. He he's obviously a more accurate quarterback during his time at Ohio State. So I think Stroud's the better quarterback than Young right now. I don't think it's a big gap by much. I think it's very, very close between those two. But there is a good amount of people out there that do think Bryce Young could be that number 1 overall pick. I think it's Stroud. The odds think it's Stroud. A lot of people in the NFL world think it's Stroud. And then finally on these rumors, speaking of the Texans at number 2, potentially Houston's not set on a quarterback at the number 2 overall pick. The Texans have the 2nd pick and the 12th pick, which they got from the Browns in the Deshaun Watson trade. And this report's saying that, look, Houston could draft another position at number 2, a Jalen Carter, a Will Anderson, you know, one of those top defensive players at number 2, and use their 12th overall pick, their 2nd round pick, their 3rd round pick, their 2nd first round pick in next year's draft from Cleveland, and potentially move back up into the top 10 or top 11. I mean, why would they move up one spot? But back into the top 10 and draft a quarterback that does fall. So that is definitely a potential idea. You know, that's not something a lot of people have thought about. I think likely it's Bryce Young to go number 2, but maybe Houston says, look, we have 2 first-round picks. Instead of taking Young and maybe a receiver at 12, what if we take defensive player, defensive stud, like one of these top 2 guys, and then trade back up and then get a quarterback? So as you'll find in this NFL Mock Draft 4.0, I took a good amount of these rumors into account. This is obviously not the final mock draft. Every mock draft has been different. I've been, putting different players in different spots, making different trades. None of these mock drafts are what I think will happen until we get to the final mock draft on the NFL draft day, which is exactly what I think will happen and will happen. But here is NFL Mock Draft 4.0, the entire first round of the NFL draft with trades in it. All right, number 1 overall pick. I've had him going number 1 overall for the entirety of these mock drafts. Number 1 overall to the Carolina Panthers, CJ Stroud. Don't really need to mention anything else. I've been saying it for weeks now. Number 2 overall, Houston Texans, I have them not taking a quarterback. I have them taking Will Anderson Jr., the linebacker, edge rusher, hybrid defensive player from the University of Alabama to be their defensive stud for the future. So with them passing up on a guy like Bryce Young, I think the third pick becomes a very, very hot pick, and I think a lot of teams are going to be jumping to get a guy like Bryce Young because they didn't expect him to be available past number 2. So this is where I have the Cardinals and the Raiders making a trade. I think you're looking at the Raiders trading their first-round pick, obviously number 7, definitely a second, maybe even a first next year, to trade up to number 3. They're going to take Bryce Young from Alabama, going to sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo, and then become the Raiders' franchise quarterback. At number 4, this one's a little bit interesting. I don't have a quarterback going to the Colts. They definitely need a quarterback. I think they'll definitely end up drafting one, but there's been some talk about them looking into Lamar Jackson. So let's say they sign Lamar Jackson. The Colts have Lamar Jackson in this NFL Mock Draft 4.0 scenario. They select Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher from Texas Tech, not Jalen Carter, not one of these other defensive stars. They select Tyree Wilson at number 4. Number 5 is supposed to be the Seattle Seahawks. I have the Texans trading back up into the first round, into the top 5 with Seattle. They're going to trade the 12th pick, the 33rd pick, the 73rd pick, and then the first-round pick from the Cleveland Browns in the 2024 NFL Draft. That might be a lot. 2 first-round picks, a second and a third. But you're asking a Seattle team that rumors have a lot of interest in an Anthony Richardson to potentially be the quarterback of the future and sit behind Geno Smith. And you're asking the Seahawks to go from 5 to 12. So the Texans trade back up into the top 5. They're sitting at the number 5 overall pick. And they select Anthony Richardson from Florida to be their quarterback of the future. And now they have Will Anderson and Anthony Richardson on their roster on both sides of the ball, 2 absolute stars with potential to be some of the best players in the NFL. Number 6, I have the Lions taking Jalen Carter. There's been a lot of talk that, with Jalen Carter's off-the-field situations that are going on right now, that the Lions might not want to draft him. Dan Campbell said some things about Jalen Carter and just some of the things he's heard. Maybe the Lions and Jalen Carter aren't a perfect match. I just don't see them passing up on a guy like this. Maybe they get a Christian Gonzalez, a corner, or a Miles Murphy. But I don't see Jalen Carter right now at this moment falling super far in the first round. So I have them taking him at 6. Number 7, the Cardinals, after trading down with the Raiders, select Christian Gonzalez, the corner from Oregon. At number 8, the Falcons select Miles Murphy, the edge rusher from Clemson. At number 9, the Bears select Paris Johnson Jr., the tackle from Ohio State. And then at number 10, the Eagles select Lucas Van Ness from, I think it's the University of Iowa. All right, number 11, the Texans stay put. They're going to draft Will Levis, the quarterback from Kentucky. He falls a little bit in this one. I don't think a team is really going to jump up and get him. I don't see a team like jumping up like the Falcons or with the Bears or with the Eagles to get Will Levis. I think he falls down to the Titans at 11, and they take him, sit behind Ryan Tannehill probably for the remainder of this year. And then he's going to take over in 2024. The Seahawks, after trading from 5 to 12, they're going to select Brian Brees, edge rusher from Clemson. Number 13, the Jets, Peter Skoronski, offensive tackle from Northwestern. They could definitely, add another offensive lineman to protect Aaron Rodgers when he's officially a member of that team. The Patriots, Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver from Ohio State. They lost Jacoby Myers. They obviously brought in Juju Smith-Schuster, but they need some weapons on that offense for Mac Jones to mess around with. And I think he's the best receiver in this draft. I think it's not really close. I don't think it's really up for debate. He's the best receiver in this draft. He goes to New England. The Green Bay Packers select a receiver. They select Jordan Addison from USC. I think he's the second best receiver in this class. To pair along with Christian Watson in the new Jordan Love era, they select Jordan Addison. The Washington Commanders get Devon Witherspoon, the corner from Illinois. The Pittsburgh Steelers select Broderick Jones, offensive tackle from the University of Georgia. The Lions select Dalton Kincaid, tight end from the University of Utah. Tampa Bay Buccaneers get Brian Branch, safety, Alabama. The Seahawks with their own first-round pick. Joey Porter Jr., cornerback from Penn State. The Seahawks have a pretty good secondary right now, but it doesn't hurt to add another corner, to this team. They could draft an offensive lineman, they could draft a linebacker, but I think adding another corner is definitely not a bad idea for Seattle. The Chargers select Bijan Robinson, the best running back in this draft from the University of Texas. Whether or not they keep Austin Eckler, I think they need to add a big offensive playmaker. Bijan Robinson, the best running back in college football, going to the Chargers to play with Justin Herbert. And then even if Eckler is still there, I still think he fits great with that Chargers team. The Ravens select Quentin Johnson, wide receiver from TCU. Obviously, in this little scenario right now, they don't have Lamar Jackson, but they're not going to, add a quarterback. They still have Huntley, their Pro Bowl quarterback, so they do need some wide receivers on that team. Quentin Johnson goes there to the Ravens. The Vikings get Cam Smith, corner from South Carolina. Jaguars get Darnell Wright, offensive tackle from the University of Tennessee. The New York Giants get a wide receiver. They desperately need some wide receiver help on that team. They get Jalen Hyatt from the University of Tennessee. The Dallas Cowboys get a tight end here to replace Dalton Schultz, Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. The Bills, Zay Flowers, wide receiver, Boston College. The Bengals, Nolan Smith, edge rusher out of Georgia. The Saints, Josh Downs, wide receiver, UNC. Eagles, Deontay Banks, cornerback, Maryland. And the Kansas City Chiefs, Isaiah Foskey, edge out of Notre Dame. So to recap it, the top 10 in particular, I think is something we need to recap. Probably the top 11. Number 1, C.J. Stroud. Number 2, no quarterback for the Texans, Will Anderson Jr. The Raiders trade up with the Cardinals. They select Bryce Young. The Colts take Tyree Wilson because they have Lamar Jackson in this little scenario. The Texans trade back up into the top 5 with the Seahawks and select Anthony Richardson. The Lions select Jalen Carter. Cardinals, Christian Gonzalez. Falcons, Miles Murphy. Bears, Paris Johnson. Eagles, Lucas Van Ness. And then the Titans at 11 select Will Levis. So that's the NFL Mock Draft 4.0. We did the full mock draft this time. Like I said, this is not the final mock draft. This one's probably the most wild one I've done. Not up to the consensus that a lot of people have out there. But I think it was fun to do a little one where, Lamar's on the Colts and the Texans pass a quarterback at 2 and then they trade back in. And Will Levis falls. And Bryce Young falls to 3 and the Raiders trade up. That one was a lot of movement, a lot of wild stuff that could happen. Obviously, 24 aways from the NFL draft. So, not the final mock draft. Don't take this one super seriously. But, there's definitely some real rumors involved in this mock draft. So, that is NFL Mock Draft 4.0. All right. The NBA season is down to its last week of games. And I really want to focus on the Western Conference standings right now. The Lakers are currently the 7th seed. That is the top play-in spot right now. They're at 40-38, 2 games over 500. And they're currently half a game back of the 5th and 6th seed, which is the Clippers and the Warriors. I really want to take a look at these 3 teams' remaining schedule because I think the Lakers have a potential of missing the play-in and instead securing themselves a playoff spot with a 5th or a 6th seed. So the Lakers' remaining schedule, they play Utah, the Clippers, Phoenix Suns, and then Utah again. The Clippers play the Lakers, Blazers, and Suns, and then the Warriors play the Thunder, Kings, and Trailblazers. I think the Lakers definitely have, probably the toughest remaining schedule. Obviously, they play the most games out of these 3 teams. But they play the Clippers and the Suns, which is definitely, some pretty tough opponents. The Clippers, the Lakers have not been able to beat the Clippers, I believe, under the LeBron AD era, with Kawhi and PG being on the Clippers. The Jazz, I think those are 2 guaranteed wins, and then the Suns obviously have Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. If Kevin Durant and LeBron James play in this game, Suns-Lakers, this will be like the first time we've seen LeBron and KD play. I think it's in over 4 years that these two have played in a game against each other. That's pretty wild to say. The Clippers have the Lakers, Blazers, and Suns. That's a pretty tough schedule too. The Lakers, that's obviously a tough game despite them, beating the Lakers in all of their previous matchups. The Lakers are really hot right now. The Suns, it's a tough team to play, and then the Blazers are already eliminated. That's a guaranteed W. The Warriors have the easiest. The Thunder, that's a really good team, right? They're a potential play-in team. But I still think the Warriors are a little bit better. The Kings, they're a playoff team right now, but I like the Warriors matching up against that Sacramento team. And then the Blazers is a guaranteed dub. So all of these teams have tough remaining schedules. And it's definitely a possibility that the Lakers don't make the play-in and instead have a 5th seed or a 6th seed in a first-round matchup against a Phoenix, a Sacramento, whatever team is in that 3 or 4th seed in the Western Conference. So 1 week to go in the NBA regular season. The Eastern Conference is pretty much set. The remaining teams for the West, Pelicans, Thunder, Utah. Dallas has been struggling. They're 1-8 in their last 9 games. All right, MLB recap. So we had the opening weekend in the MLB. There's a lot to go over. I'm not going to recap every single game today because that's a lot. That would be a lot. I do want to mention real quick, since we've been doing daily episodes Monday through Friday with this MLB regular season, 162 games, you can pretty much expect every single day during the week that we will be recapping and then taking a look ahead to the games. So tomorrow we'll recap Monday's games and look at Tuesday night's games. And today we're going to look ahead to tonight's games. So, but in recapping this opening day weekend from Thursday to Sunday, let's go through real quick. The Tampa Bay Rays swept the Detroit Tigers in their series. Tigers fall to 0-3, and the Rays are 3-0. The Yankees take a series from the Giants 2-1. The Red Sox take down the Orioles 2-1 in their series. The Twins sweep the Kansas City Royals. The Cleveland Guardians take 3 out of 4 from the Seattle Mariners. The Astros and White Sox split 2-2. The Rangers swept the Phillies in a series where the Phillies had no control at all. Their pitching staff was horrible. The Rangers completely dominated on the offensive side of the ball. The Angels take 2 games from the Oakland A's. The Mets take 3 from the Marlins. The Marlins win only 1 game right there. The Reds 2-1 over the Pirates. The Padres split the series with the Rockies 2-2. The Dodgers split the series with the Diamondbacks, 2-2. And then the Cardinals take the series 2-1 over the Toronto Blue Jays. Trace Thompson had a 3-homer game for the Dodgers against the Diamondbacks. He's tied with CJ Cron, who also has 3 home runs for the current lead in Major League Baseball. I want to mention this Rangers series with the Phillies. Game 1, Aaron Nola, Jacob deGrom. deGrom has a very rough outing. I think he only went 4 innings. Gave up, a good amount of runs in his 4 innings. And then Aaron Nola gives up a million runs. And then that Phillies bullpen gives up hella runs. And then the Rangers win this game 11-7. Game 2, the Rangers dominate 16-3. And then game 3, the Rangers win 2-1. That Rangers offense has been electric so far this season. deGrom didn't have his best outing, but Eovaldi had a great start against the Phillies. Wheeler had a very rough battle. The bullpen for the Phillies has been horrible so far this season. They're kind of having a World Series hangover right now. Great start for this Rangers offense. Saturday, the Angels dropped 11 runs in the 3rd inning over the A's to win 13-1. Sunday, they won 6-0. I feel like I'm always going to have the most to say about the Angels because I pay attention to them the most and I'm a fan of that team. So I don't want it to always, when we talk about baseball, to always be focused on the Angels. But right now it's pretty focused on the Angels. The Trout and Ohtani hit back-to-back homers on Sunday. Logan O'Hoppe hit his first Major League homer. Logan O'Hoppe is going to be a freaking star at that catcher position. He's great defensively, and he's going to be one of the best hitting catchers in baseball. He's starting off the season 4 for 10, 400 average. What the heck does that say? He has a double, a homer, 6 RBIs, a 1.164 OPS. Taylor Ward's playing great, 7 hits, 500 average, 1 homer. Ohtani on his opening day start, in which the Angels lost because the bullpen. I mean, that first game for the Angels, the offense only scored 1 run, which is absolutely not what you expect from that Angels team. And then the bullpen kind of blew it with Aaron Loop and Ryan Tepera. Anyways, Ohtani, 6 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts, 3 walks, 2 hits. Jeffrey Springs had a great outing on Sunday, 6 innings pitched, 12 Ks, 0 earned runs for the Rays in their win over the Tigers. Logan Webb on his opening day start, he did lose, gave up 4 runs, but he had 6 innings of 12 strikeout baseball. Garrett Cole in that same game for the Yankees, 0 earned runs over 6 innings with 11 strikeouts. Dylan Cease, 10 strikeouts, 1 earned run, 6 1/3 innings pitched against the Astros. Adley Rutschman on his opening day game, 5 for 5 with a home run, 4 RBIs. So, top 10 after 3 or 4 games of the MLB season. Before the season started, before opening day, power rankings were the Astros, Braves, Padres, Blue Jays, Phillies, Mets, Mariners, Yankees, Dodgers, Cardinals. I'm not going to really put this one out there. I'm not going to make a graphic on Instagram. I'm not going to make a TikTok about these power rankings because they're pretty much meaningless. We've seen 3 or 4 games of baseball for some teams. So next Monday, I think every Monday, we're going to have a weekly power rankings update right after 1 week of baseball. So next Monday will be the true first power rankings of the MLB season. But right now, we'll do one top 10 after 3 or 4 games of the season. Number 1, Tampa Bay Rays. They're 3-0. Their pitching's been great. Their offense is electric. I think right now, out of these 3-0 teams, they're easily the best. Number 2 is the Rangers. Their offense has been amazing, and their pitching's been pretty lights out as well. Number 3, the Twins. They're 3-0, but they played the Kansas City Royals, so that's why I don't have them above the 2 teams that are also 3-0. Number 4, the Cardinals. They beat a Blue Jays team that I think can go to the World Series. You know, they played great. Their offense was really, really good. Jordan Walker got a hit. Arenado, Goldschmidt, they played great. Number 5, the Mets. They beat the Marlins. They have 3 wins on the season. They're actually playing a game right now against the Brewers. They're losing 1-0 in the bottom of the 4th. Number 6, Cleveland. They took down the Seattle Mariners. Those were some really, really fun games to watch. One of them went into extras. One of them was a very nice pitching duel, I believe it was. Number 7, the Angels. The Angels have the potential. I'm saying this not only because I'm an Angels fan, but literally, if I wasn't an Angels fan, I think I'd be saying this too. They, at the end of the season, if their offense, keeps at this current pace, at this current pace, they'll be the best offense ever. But adjusting for injuries and people slumping, they have the potential to be the best 1 through 9 lineup in baseball. Taylor Ward is playing great. He's just an on-base machine. Trout and Ohtani, 2-3 hole. Anthony Rendon, when he's healthy and when he's actually playing, is really, really good. Gio Urshela has been playing great at that shortstop position in the bottom of the lineup. Hunter Renfroe, Logan O'Hoppe at the catcher position, Brandon Drury, Luis Rengifo. When Jared Walsh comes back, this Angels lineup is going to be incredible. I have them number 7, number 8, Yankees. They've been playing absolutely stellar baseball right now as well. The Braves at the number 9, and then the Dodgers at number 10. So these power rankings, they don't mean a whole lot, like I've been saying. When you've only seen 3 or 4 games from these teams, the Twins have been playing great. The Rangers have been playing great, but we've only seen 3 games from these teams. Give it a week, give it a month, give it 2 months, and then we'll really figure out. Obviously give it 2 months. Wait till mid-May or the start of June, and you'll really start to figure out what these teams are made of and who they're going to be this season. Finally, let's take a look at tonight's MLB games. Right now, we have the Mets and the Brewers. The Brewers are 10 seconds ago, the Brewers were up 1-0. It's currently 3-0. Milwaukee, Carlos Carrasco in the bottom of the fourth, already at 80 pitches. We have the Giants taking on the White Sox today. Desclafani versus Michael Kopech. Cubs at Cincinnati Reds. Smiley versus Overton. Twins versus Marlins. Tyler Mahle, the start for the Twins. Johnny Cueto for the Marlins. Philadelphia Phillies against the New York Yankees. That's going to be a really good series. Taijuan Walker versus Nestor Cortez. Rays, Nationals, Drew Rasmussen on the mound for the Tampa Bay Rays, taking on Trevor Williams for the Nationals. Pirates at Red Sox, Johan Oviedo versus Cutter Crawford. That is such a sick name. That is a baseball name right there, Cutter Crawford. Top 10 name in baseball right now, Cutter Crawford of the Red Sox. Blue Jays at the Kansas City Royals. Jose Barrios versus Brady Singer. Braves, Cardinals. Charlie Morton, Jake Woodford. Orioles at Rangers. Kyle Bradish for the Orioles. John Gray for the Rangers. Detroit at Houston. Matthew Boyd versus Hunter Brown. I think Hunter Brown's making his MLB debut, I believe it is, for the Rangers. For the Houston Astros. Angels taking on the Mariners. Reed Detmers versus George Kirby. That is a battle of two future star pitchers, two future potential Cy Young winning pitchers tonight in Seattle. Guardians versus A's. Zach Plesac, James Capellion. Diamondbacks, Padres. Nelson versus Weathers, and then Dodgers taking on the Rockies. Ryan Feltner versus Michael Grove for the Dodgers. So those are tonight's games. We'll recap them tomorrow on Tuesday. A lot of baseball. We got 162 games of baseball, so we'll be talking about it basically every single day from now until October. Obviously, NBA playoffs, they start next week. NFL draft. A lot of stuff going on in the world of the NFL, as always. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of The Franchise. Remember, as always, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all in the description of every single episode. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Be back tomorrow on Tuesday. See you guys later.